Hey everyone, Rob here from Cards Encounters blog here at Great Stories Inc. For the month of August, we're going to have some great trading card events, gaming events. We're going to have Dragon Ball Super, a new game. We're going to have the third set of Final Fantasy come out. We're going to have Pokemon, Burning Shadows, and we're going to be starting our HeroClix leagues. Follow us on Facebook or come to the down to the shop and ask questions about any of this. Thanks. Enjoy the show. Hail Hydra.
Hey, my name is Chubbs Peterson. Please visit my golf pro shop. Oh wait, no, sorry. My name is Chris Mills, owner of Great Stories. Here we are with the team once again, our second installment. Once again, we have Ken Lee, Crank File, Rob Goyer, Cards Encounters, Tyler, he just works here. If you saw video one, then you know the joke. Anyway, so we're here today to discuss what's been happening with Marvel, DC, indie, and pop culture world over the last month. And so last time we talked a lot about Secret Empire, Marvel's big blow it all up thing again, you know, that's they're want to do every so often. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that and the developments that have occurred over the last month. And some other things that kind of are catching our interest. So with that, let's talk Secret Empire.
So we're up to Secret Empire issue number 5, and yeah. I'm assuming everyone at the table is caught up?
Yep, I've read all the way up to number 4.
Great, so please.
But I've read a lot of the tie-ins no one else has, so I have a different type of knowledge I gotta bring to the table.
Well, I think what Secret Empire is doing, at least what I can tell from the last issue, is that they are setting up, bringing back a lot of the legacy characters. That's what I feel like the end game for this is going to be. 2 of the reveals that we had, actually 3 very, very big reveals in this last previous issue of characters who have been previously assumed to be off the table come back.
Yeah.
The first was the Red Skull that we saw in this alternate Cap universe.
Right.
That's right.
We had the reintroduction of Bruce Banner at the end, which I thought was a huge reveal. They kind of hinted it on the cover with the big hands, but you gotta think he's
been out of the game for a while.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like, oh, you know, when are they going to bring back, like, the real Hulk? But now we get to see that happening.
Yeah, is there more of, like, a game changer than the Hulk, you know, bring the Hulk into a fight?
Right, exactly.
So that was
better than that.
That was huge. And who was the third? There was one more guy that came back this issue.
I didn't read it.
You didn't read it. Anyone else?
We're going to have to open up the book here,
Yeah,
I think, here.
Okay, so right here we have the introduction of a character that they, basically what, according to Black Widow, this is going to be the guy that wins the war for them. And it's the champions who are going off the Black Widow, and they're breaking this guy out from a Hydra base. Mm-hmm. We don't know who this guy is yet exactly, but I think...
Big reveals.
The reveal, I think it could be potentially Steve Rogers, like an alternate Steve Rogers.
So, okay,
3 potential Steve Rogers here?
Well, I think the other Steve Rogers that we're seeing in that kind of fantasy land might be something more...
okay, so what do we...
Something more like alternate reality, not quite like an actual reality, right? More of like I don't want to say like a mystical realm, but something along those lines. Because everything in that world seems... It seems very different than what's...
Okay, so what do you think the conclusion for Captain America is going to be at the end of this entire arc? Because what we do see going on here is, yeah, we have that kind of mystical realm, kind of Steve Rogers, and now you're thinking this could possibly be a different version of Steve Rogers coming back, but we still have this Steve Rogers, you know, head of Hydra character that's going on who shows kind of a more remorseful side to him throughout the entire series. Do you think there's going to be a point where one Steve Rogers is going to be removed from the situation and the true Steve Rogers is going to be brought back?
Oh, definitely.
Is there going to be a point maybe where the current Steve Rogers, who's in charge of Hydra, is going to be redeemable and brought back to a point where he himself is actually the true Steve Rogers remade? You know, into the original Steve Rogers? Like, how do you see this ending?
I mean, I think the way I see it ending is that if you remember before this all happened, there was this new human that showed up, one that had the ability to see the future.
Ulysses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And he was the human that kind of kick-started this whole thing off with the premonition of Miles Morales' Spider-Man killing Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's actually kind of come to fruition, where in some way the champions will have to make that decision to kill Captain America. And if you've been reading the tie-ins, you know that Black Widow's team, that's their goal. They're going to assassinate Steve Rogers.
We talked a lot about that last time.
Yeah. So maybe that's what happens. Maybe she actually gets through these guys and gets them to make that ultimate step. And
Well, now I have to recall that we were discussing the fact that it doesn't actually state that Miles kills him. He's just seen holding Steve's body, and it's he himself is the one who believes that he's killed him. But in true storytelling fashion, it could always turn out that they misinterpreted exactly what they were seeing, and he wasn't the one who actually killed him. Something else happened.
Definitely possible.
So, and that's a huge step for even going through watching how this whole Red Room situation is unfolding, where she's trying to get the champions to a point where they're okay with taking life if they have to. There's still some great resistance. When we were originally talking about the potential for what this could become, could these young superheroes be brought to a point where they're okay with dispatching rather than just incarcerating? There's a lot of resistance that we're seeing up to this point where they don't want to have to go to that step and might not even be willing to at any point.
Yeah, I think that was a great group to bring into the Black Widow, because they were like this idealistic team of young superheroes, and when they formed the champion, their whole belief system was like, hey, we're always going to do what's right, not necessarily what people are telling us to do.
Right.
We're going to do what's morally correct, and now they're seeing like, hey, sometimes doing what morally is correct is not always going to result with the best ending. So I think that's definitely where Steve Rogers' story would go. And with the reintroduction of this character, it could be a hint that this guy might be another Steve Rogers that will take his place once the Hydra Steve Rogers has been deposed.
So that brings up a point that I wanted to address, because I think maybe what I was hearing a little bit of what you were saying was that maybe this Steve Rogers, who's the Hydra Steve Rogers, may not be the real Steve Rogers.
Right.
But Nick Spencer has been quoted as saying, "This is Steve Rogers." And make no mistake, we are not going to reveal this to be just a farce. This is Steve Rogers, the Hydra Steve Rogers. And also another thing is, we are not using the Cosmic Cube to undo all of this. That was the other thing he was quoted as saying. So I just wanted to put those things on the table, because that was a direct interview that I had read.
Which is interesting, because one of the major plot points in this is that they're trying to acquire the pieces of the Cosmic Cube for exactly that reason, which is, at the same time, a huge thing that's going on within the Hydra organization is that they want to stop them from being able to do that very thing by collecting the fragments for themselves and having Hydra hold on to them, so that can't happen. So
that's a good point. Did that actually ruin a plot, a subplot that's been kind of being weaved through here, through the story, that they are trying to collect the Cosmic Cube to undo all of this?
I think the Cosmic Cube is actually a bit of a distraction, right? Because at the end of this issue, at least, it seems like the underground Avengers have given up on looking for the Cosmic Cube shards, and they're just deciding, all right, this isn't going to be the way we go.
Right. Well, it seems that Hydra, I mean, for their part, was also having a little bit of trouble in that regard, weren't they?
A little bit until
Namor decided to just cave in and said, "I'm going to protect Atlantis at all costs. That means I'm going to hand over."
Which is interesting, because
he
was pretty willing to give up their oldest temple and the temple guardians there, and use them as a decoy, knowing that Steve would be sending in his top agents to attempt to retrieve those, and of course he had to know what was going to be the outcome when they discovered that it was a fake.
Well, perhaps he doubted that Steve Rogers would be willing to go to that measure of actually destroying the temple.
Until he did.
Until he actually did, and then he decided this isn't worth holding anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So...
I think that definitely fits with, at least Namor, and, he's always wants to keep his empire out of whatever's going on the surface. He looks after his own people.
That's right.
First and foremost.
And Rogers doesn't really seem to care all that much about Atlantis until Atlantis kind of got in his way. And now that he's gotten what he wants, who knows if he's even going to bother going back.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think either of the teams going to be realistically going to be able to collect enough shards to reform a cosmic cube, so I think that was a little bit of distraction. I think we're going to see the actual end game of this, how this plays out in the next 5 or so issues. I mean, it goes.
Right.
Building upon your thoughts that perhaps this is Steve Rogers who's kind of recovering from some major thing happening to him, do you think perhaps this kind of dream world sequence where we're seeing Steve Rogers coming back, could this be subconscious Steve Rogers trying to regain an understanding of who he is and coming out of this dream and then eventually revealing that he...
It could be symbolic of what's going, his internal struggle that's going in his mind, and what it was getting at with the other world is very much very symbolic of the narration that's been going on over the story about hope and loss of hope, finding hope within friends and family, and maybe that's something that this Steve Rogers is struggling with internally, and he needs to somehow reconcile that before he can actually, somehow save the day, I guess, in some weird way. But if you remember, the Cosmic Cube, when brought Steve Rogers back, it didn't actually bring Steve Rogers back, right? It just restored him.
It restored him to his youth.
So,
his youthful appearance.
Right. Maybe, before then he was old man Steve Rogers. I mean, could potentially be that guy. Maybe they dragged a Steve Rogers from another universe.
Yep.
Or, perhaps in restoring him to his youth, it altered something that had occurred in the past. So different timeline, different reality kind of thing, which is what we've been dealing with, different realities crossing over.
Right. And that's something we've been dealing with since back after Secret Wars. So the last couple of years we've been kind of dealing with this fallout. So, it could potentially, that's a theory I'm subscribing to.
It's interesting. Well, if you haven't been reading Secret Empire, we highly encourage you to jump on board here. This is the event that Civil War II was not. So, if you were on board for Civil War II and then just got totally disenchanted, and disheartened, and said, "Wow, I'm done with Marvel event books for a while," you really do. You're cheating yourself.
Yeah.
So this has been a very, very solid story.
And don't be afraid to dabble into the tie-ins because, again, if you haven't seen the first video, we discussed that the tie-ins are very important for this. For each new individual Secret Empire title that's released, there's 5 or 6 tie-ins that go along with it, but it really discusses a lot of the backstory, and you get so much more information when you read those. It's not just little snippets of information in a crossover. It really tells you what's going on in the background that you just don't get from reading the main books.
So you can find all those tie-ins all in the back of the book.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Now, I personally have not been reading the tie-ins. I've just been reading the main story, and I will say that even just reading the main story without reading the tie-ins, I've been able to get a whole lot out of it. There are certain
satisfying read.
Yeah, there are certain subplots that I would like to get a little more clarification, and hopefully I can use user reference to tell me which issues I need to read, so I don't have to read all these. Because there's just a ton of reading.
Yes.
I think I have...
It's a good reason to quit your job,
right
everyone.
now.
Just quit your job and just read comics.
Yeah, just get a job.
Totally solid advice.
Yeah, and then make videos with other people about said comic books.
You guys hiring?
So
they're talking about paying me soon, so that'd be cool.
we're thinking about it. So moving along, we do have some other. I wouldn't say they're not the wide-reaching events books that Secret Empire is, but there are a couple of events happening within the Marvel world that do deal with a smaller segment of characters. The first of which we've got WMD.
Yep. Weapons of Mutant Destruction.
That's right, on the cover there, you're not seeing that wrong. That is a Hulk Wolverine-looking monstrosity in a tube.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is. So, interesting, you said Hulk. Hulk's not a mutant, but he is central to the story.
He is.
So, I don't know, what'd you guys think? I read the first issue plus Totally Awesome Hulk, which
Yeah.
is the second issue.
Oh, right, we
in
should
the-
mention that this
Yeah.
this event crosses over with the Totally Awesome Hulk and
Yep.
also Weapon X.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
all
a
of them
jump
are-
between the two.
Yeah, but all three of them are being written by Greg Pak, so it's the same writer that's writing
Yeah.
all three series. So there's going to be, it feels at least early on, there's the cohesion to the story.
Yeah, it's weird.
Exactly.
They all tie into each other. There's no main storyline other than, I mean, you get a couple of the WMD books, but really, you can't just read WMD and get everything. You
Right.
have to read the quote-unquote tie-ins because they're actually pinnacle to the story.
Yeah, right. This just kind of crosses over, fills in the blanks. between
Yeah,
the
exactly.
books.
Exactly.
So the first thing that struck me about WMD was the fact that you had Logan assembling a team and it's a very odd team.
Yep.
We've got
A lot of bad dudes on that
Yeah.
team.
a lot of bad dudes.
Domino.
Some traditional
Lady-
enemies.
Yeah.
Some traditional
Lady
enemies.
Deathstrike.
all-
Lady Deathstrike.
Lady Deathstrike teaming up.
Sorry.
We all have her somewhere.
Yeah, that's right.
She digs her claws deep into my soul.
Yeah. But you know, it's very interesting. I mean, there's one scene where Amadeus and Lady Deathstrike head off on basically their own little mission,
Yep.
and the way they handle it, they're already clashing.
Yeah.
They're already clashing because Lady Deathstrike, obviously, there is the morals, I guess, are a little bit more questionable.
Right.
You know, and
She's a cold-blooded
and,
murderer. This
and
put a
Amadeus,
dance around it.
as we've discussed, is one of the champions, those idealistic youngsters
Yeah.
in the Marvel world, right? And so, you know, he's doing everything he can not to use lethal means to basically handle this problem.
Yeah.
And it just makes for a very interesting and exciting segment, actually. I was reading it and I was like, wow, this is a really good, like, I could see this translate to a movie, like a very
Yeah.
cool action scene, you know. But I'm very intrigued in the story. I didn't think I would be. When I picked this up, I was like, I was doing it out of a sense of obligation, obviously, to...
It's almost
you know,
like you own a comic book store or something. You have to read it.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
You look at it, a giant Hulk Wolverine thing, that's just ridiculous and you have no interest in it. But then,
They're supposed to be fighting. They're coming together to form a superhero.
yeah, like, what kind of mutation can this be and what havoc can it wreak?
That's right.
Is what I'm interested in.
Exactly. And, you know, but the story itself, though, is very well written.
Yeah.
Pak is writing a very solid story here after 2 issues, and so I'm on board.
Yeah,
all
definitely.
the way.
Definitely love the character interactions. Like you said, like having that dichotomy between, like, you know, the guys that are more your altruistic heroes and the
Right.
ones that are more like, hey, any means necessary. I think it's fantastic. That scene specifically that you referenced, where it's like Logan telling Lady Deathstrike why she's paired up with Amadeus, and then turn around, telling Amadeus why he's paired up with Lady Deathstrike. It's just kind of playing both sides.
Yep.
I thought that was it was hysterical.
Yes.
So,
Shows Logan to be a pretty good, like,
yeah,
he's got a good mind there. I mean, he's known as, like, the brawler, you know, like...
He's the one to disobey the orders, and here he's like,
Yeah.
he's finally
He's
reached that age where
manipulating
he's
as a
actually
leader.
using wisdom. Like, how long has it been now that he's been on this earth?
How many wars has he
Yeah,
been
like,
in?
and now finally he's like, okay, you know, maybe I'll do things in a smart kind of way instead of just running headlong into battle.
Well, it's a little different when you're like the lead of a group, right? I
Right.
mean, I feel out of that group, you know, Logan's the de facto leader. He's
Yeah.
the one that's keeping everyone together.
So that's really cool. Let's move on to the next one, which is
Yeah.
the Edge of Venomverse. So we've got this Venomverse storyline that's going to be happening that,
Kicking off.
or it already has kicked off here with this, this first book. Central characters. I mean, clearly Venom, but
Yeah,
also
makes
we've
sense.
got X-23,
Yep.
who is central to at least this first book. X-23 on the run with a bunch of street
Misfits,
urchins, I guess you could say, and all being infected with the Venom symbiote. And it made for an interesting, for me, it made for a bit of an interesting run, but I have to say, I am not a fan of these alternate universe stories.
A lot of people aren't.
It's tough for me, and it's not really fair because it's unfair to the author, to the
Right.
to the artist who they pour their heart and souls into these books. But I have trouble with books that don't fall within the continuity of the universe that I really am interested about. when it's some offshoot story like what ifs. What if books never really held too much importance to me. But I'm going to turn it over to you guys to just kind of talk about this book a little bit. And
I think the cover is amazing. First off,
Yeah,
that machine cover is
fantastic.
insane, absolutely insane.
Yep.
Yeah, that got me to get the book alone.
It's exciting to see the symbiote on somebody else.
So so the idea that I get just reading to the end of this book, you basically get this idea that in this particular instance, it's a universe where X-23 doesn't actually make it out of Weapon X program until she's finally infested with the Venom symbiote.
Infested.
Yeah, infested. Yeah. And together they finally break out permanently. So this isn't like your standard universe where she's already out, she's New Wolverine. No, this is a universe where she got out because of her infestation by the Venom symbiote. And in that, she has like this small little adventure with a couple of misfits, but it concludes with her getting sucked into an alternate reality, and right there at the end, she's greeted by a infested Captain America who says, "Oh, we've got a war to fight." So it kind of makes me think that in this particular run, it's going to be a whole lot of characters who in their own universes are infested with Venom and get sucked into this single universe where now they got to fight a big bad guy. So you're going to have like crossover of all these different Venom superheroes. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and I actually like that. See, I like the multiple universe kind of thing, because not only just gives you many different options for various superheroes, you can continue using the same characters just in different plausibilities, like different things that they may or may not have done. It keeps it fresh and new, but still a face that you're familiar with. But also with this idea that there's a multiverse and people can start jumping between them, and what happens in this one universe really does affect every other universe that's connected to it, rather than just everybody has their own little bubble, their own little story.
Yeah, agreed. I like the multiverse for that reason as well. It just allows them to tell stories that don't fit into your normal Marvel canon. Just like Spider-Gwen has her own universe where she can tell her own story, and I think that's really what Marvel's going to try to get out of this Venomverse series. Is they're looking for Venomized characters that will hit. They'll resonate with fans and eventually spin off and get their own series.
And potentially bring them into the...
Right.
Right.
Like Spider-Gwen is now a staple of the Marvel Universe.
Exactly.
She spun out of the Spider-Verse, which was basically the same thing except for Spider-Eyes characters.
I think Gwen Stacy pretty much doing anything that involves some of the characters' superpower just is a winner. Because Gwenpool also is a huge hit now.
Surprisingly, actually a decent read.
Yeah.
I was not ready for that.
Speaking of Gwenpool, aren't they teasing
Venomized?
Yeah.
the last page here, and maybe we can show our
next
viewers.
issue we have
Ben Gwenpool.
Ben Gwen.
Ben Gwenpool.
So and definitely going to be very
It has
interesting.
like a Deadpool Venom, it'd be Denim Pool.
Denim pool. Denim pool. That's good. I like that.
Wears
Beautiful
red
boys,
jeans and
such shit.
got the jean jacket on.
Ken, would you do us the honor of actually introducing this book to us? Because
Yes.
I think we both have a high regard for it.
So the last book we're going to discuss, Marvel book we're going to discuss today is Spectacular Spider-Man. This one's being written by Chip Zdarsky, who you guys may know. He did Sex Criminals for Image. He did Howard the Duck, which was also a hysterical run. And it's got art by Adam Kubert, who's a phenomenal artist. And as you can kind of see from the cover with the mustard stain on the shirt, kind of sopping through into his suit. This is more lighthearted Spider-Man. I know a lot of us have stopped reading Amazing Spider-Man. Dan Slott's run.
This one's actually pretty spectacular.
This one is actually spectacular. The other one, I guess, is kind of amazing, but it'd be pretty gracious.
The amazing is a reference to his wallet.
Yeah.
So Amazing, we're focusing on Peter Parker, billionaire industrialist, right?
Yeah,
Which is kind of boring.
So like Stark Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's basically Spider-Man parading around as Tony Stark. But this really brings Spider-Man back, I think, to the classic Spider-Man that we love. Yeah. The wisecracking, just out there fighting street level crime, getting into all sorts of crazy shenanigans, and he's got the classic suit back.
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
We've seen so many different Spider-Man storylines that go off into their own little world, and like you just said, this one bringing it back to classics. That's the one that I really have been wanting to see for a while. The artwork alone, I love. I love that artwork.
Agreed.
Yes, this is the first Spider-Man, with the exception of Miles Morales, because I really loved the introduction of his character, bringing him in as the new Spider-Man, especially the Black Spider-Man, because it's so much more badass. This is the first one that I've actually picked up since for about 2 years now, the first new Spider-Man comic that's brought out, and I particularly because even just looking from the cover, I got that feel where I was like, I think this is going to be different. This isn't going to be what they've been doing with Spider-Man recently. I really got the feel that they're bringing back Peter Parker as like his original self, and so that's why I actually picked it up.
Yeah, definitely. If you're into classic Parker, I mean, this is the book for you, for sure.
Absolutely. So definitely pick up a copy of this if you haven't already.
It'll be spectacular.
Indeed. Wake up, it's DC talk time.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's going on in DC world here? We have a few things to talk about, don't we?
Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah,
More
Batman.
specifically,
Batman.
Batman. All right.
Well, see, we've
He's
got some
big,
Batman to
black,
talk about.
Bat. And he's a man.
We've got another Batman to talk about. We've got This is Batman. We've got Jonah Hex, which probably involves Batman.
Let's
to some
not get ahead of
extent.
ourselves here.
Wonder Woman, who's just... Is she dating Batman? Probably at some point.
Yeah.
And then Lobo, which I'm pretty sure is just Spanish for Batman. I don't know. I don't read DC.
Okay. So the first thing we've got is the beginning of a pretty significant Batman-related event. Yes.
Yep.
You were right.
Okay.
You were right. So we got Dark Days, The Forge.
Yes.
And to take a look at this. Oh yeah.
So that's one of 2 primer books. We got The Forge and The Casting, I believe. And that should lead into the big Batman Metal event, which will be the return of superstars Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, who were one of the most revered Batman creative
Yes.
teams.
Yeah.
If you guys ever read the New 52 Batman,
I have not.
Court of Owls, probably the best
I've
story
heard
arc
of them.
of all time. And I am a Marvel fan, but they nailed it.
yeah,
Court of Owls is my favorite.
definitely.
Well, every now and again, DC has to do something right, otherwise they wouldn't stay afloat. So I did actually, I did read this. I did read this, and unfortunately, they did it. They did do it right. I am invested. I will have to see where this goes. I cannot promise that I'll read anything else after that. If they drop Red Tool into this storyline somehow, like that'll make my entire day. But otherwise, I'm invested for just this journey. I will take it with you. But after that, no promises. I did read it. I did enjoy it. It tackles this idea of these mystery metal that Batman has been secretly investigating for quite a while behind everybody's back.
And where's that metal coming from?
Uh,
Can we go a little bit further?
Yeah, so it's nth metal. It kind of opens up with a narrator who is discussing the night that he and his wife and their people, I guess, had discovered this thing that came roaring over the skies in Egypt, and it was a ship made of this metal called nth metal, which inadvertently gave them eternal life in sort of a constant reincarnation cycle kind of event. And that's pretty much all I really got. They're tackling it from like 15 different angles within the book, but it really gets you invested because they're drilling home that there's something going on here.
Yeah, they're definitely playing up this metal theme that's been running through, through all the DC books, but most recently in the Batman books. Court of Owls, they had their sleeper agents, the Talons, were reanimated using a metal, and I think that's somehow connected.
Yep.
And there was also the Super Heavy storyline where they talked about the new metal called Batmonium, which was a super metal, highly superconductive, super dense.
They did reference another type of metal in the book. and I think it was in regards to they referenced to Hawkman and Hawkgirl a lot in the book, kind of inadvertently, like not directly, but they name drop a different type of metal that I think, again, I don't read any DC, but it seemed to me like it had something directly to do with Hawkman. And go on, I'm gonna find it.
Well, I imagine they're trying to build some type of connectivity between all these like weird metals that are floating around that have some type of super properties.
Yeah.
So everybody is going to have this certain type of metal in something that they carry around.
I'm not sure. Whoever does have it has, obviously has some kind of been gifted some kind of power with it. But
This one.
as far as where they're going with this,
I don't even know how to pronounce that. This metal right here.
Dionysium. That's, I believe, the stuff that the Talons were using to revive each other.
Okay.
I think that's an additive in your drink too.
Yeah, pretty sure it's listed there right. Yeah, there it is. Dionysium number 3. Delicious.
They also, so this is actually something that was interesting, that it was just occurring, but they don't actually give any real information on why. But during this entire moment where Hal Jordan is actually being told about, what Batman's been going on by this mysterious, voice entity that is filling this room that they find in a secret cave within Batman's secret cave, his lantern ring is actually burning him. Like there's some sort of reactive thing going on. He even mentions, I've been every corner of the universe and my ring has never reacted this way. Like, so what do you think that could possibly be? I don't know how much Green Lantern you've read.
Yeah, I don't know either, but I'm assuming it's also somehow tied in. Well, if you remember from the Button arc, there was also that bit where the Button reacted with certain radiation.
Right.
I wonder if it's somehow connected to that as well.
Possible. Yep, it's a good theory.
So, maybe that's how they're bringing all these different threads together.
So there's a lot of things being revealed here. Some are minor reveals, like they're kind of just plot devices. You've got Wayne Enterprises has set up research labs in Atlantean territory. Which Aquaman didn't really take kindly to, but obviously they get a bigger problem at the moment to solve, so they kind of look past it. And then yes, you just flipped to the last page here. Sorry, more spoilers, but you know what? We can't help it because it's just so exciting.
It's so exciting, everybody.
The secret cave within the secret cave is
Has a
apparently
secret
not
door.
so secret to someone very close to Batman's basically the primary rogue in the rogue gallery of Batman. And he was the voice, that mysterious voice behind the Hal Jordan. And I can't remember, what is the character's name that he makes the joke that he hasn't been given a code name yet.
Duke Thompson?
Duke.
Duke, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes. And which I thought was a very funny moment. Because
Yellow Bird, Big Bird,
Skylark.
I mean,
Skylark.
maybe it's the kiss of death, so he doesn't want to give him a code name yet because he's going to die. But everyone close to Batman dies. So anyway, but I thought that was kind of funny. But that's because he's Batman. So you can see just the reach that the story is going to have, and it's going to bring in, I think, pretty much all the major players in DC.
Yeah, they brought some other guys back too. There was a teaser for a guy in the bubble. I think they're teasing bringing back Plastic Man, who hasn't been around for years.
Yeah.
Really, he's been off not appearing in any books at all.
I can't remember the last time we've seen Plastic Man in the DC universe.
Okay.
So they tease him in this, so maybe they're bringing back some of their guys as well.
He is no Mr. Fantastic, is he?
No, he's not. No, he's not. I mean, he basically is, but
He is Mr. Fantastic. Yeah. So that's it's a very cool story. I mean, obviously, if Tyler is enjoying it,
I didn't say
you
I'm
have to
enjoying
pick it up.
I'm saying it created a
I heard
mystery, and
enjoyment
now I need to know what happens. I didn't say I like
He's
it.
invested, so he's enjoying it.
He's loath to admit it, but he's liking it.
Listen,
Stan, our cameraman,
I will
is
not- I will not
he's
testify
nodding right now. His
to actually
admittance.
liking it. There's a mystery that needs to be solved, and they did a good enough job of investing me in the mystery. That's it. As soon as I know what it is, I'm out.
That's it. Well, I hate to do this to Tyler, but we were talking before the shoot, and the next thing we're going to bring up, actually, he was hanging on to your every word about this storyline.
Yes.
Right?
Batman, number 24. This is the now famous issue where Batman proposes to Selina Kyle and asks her to marry her in the last panel.
Correct.
So does that mean she's gonna die as well?
Probably. That's the way these things work. I think Shuri died once in this run, but yeah, I mean, it's something I think a lot of Batman fans really can connect with. I think out of anyone, any other character in the Bat universe, like Catwoman would probably be the only one that could be in a relationship with Batman.
Yeah.
They've hinted at it for so many different Batman stories.
Definitely.
That was his only love interest.
I mean, Bat and Cat, like, they just go together. Almost like it rhymes.
Almost.
Tyler's a true romantic at heart.
I am.
That's
No,
really
I
why
am. I am.
he's drawn to this story.
He's just like writing haikus in his brain.
I'm already planning on going home and having a nice candlelit bath, and then I'm gonna sit down to my annual notebook viewing. So.
But interesting enough, we've only gotten the proposal at the end of this issue. They started off the War Joke of Riddles in issue 25, and we still don't really know what Selina's answer is. But it seems to have struck a chord with fans, and this book is actually selling for quite a bit on the after the secondary market.
That's so here. Actually, a customer came in looking for additional copies of this book this past weekend and told me how hot it was, and I was like, wow, I hadn't even known about that. So, who knew?
Yep.
Right? I get too many things to watch, too many things to keep track of here. So, very exciting news though for the Batman family and for fans of the greatest DC vigilante there is. So,
I think they're on the 4th printing on this issue already.
oh,
Oh,
we have a guest.
are they gonna wash it out like they did with the Death of Superman?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, Death of Superman was like huge. Like, oh, it sold out in like a matter of like days. And then they're like, oh, this is so cool. Like, everybody loves this issue. Let's just print like hundreds of thousands of more so it's worthless for the rest of eternity.
Well, I mean, with the Death of Superman, they just printed in like millions of copies right off the bat.
Right
That
off
thing-
the bat.
That thing never made it to a second printing. So they just like immediately that this was going to be a collector's item.
That was the 90s. The 90s era of excess, where, I mean, they were printing up millions of books. The top running books out there were just getting overproduced anyway.
Yeah, I mean, X-Men
So-
was selling like 3 million copies. Like,
Yeah.
at least printing 3 million copies. I don't think
Yeah.
they can't imagine they sold 3 million copies of
Right.
that book.
Yeah.
It was a bad time for prospectors. But actually, today's a lot better because we're not seeing those kind of production numbers anymore on any book. So, moving along. What's next?
So I'll introduce this book because this was one of my favorite books. Completely caught me off guard. This is DC's doing a crossover with Looney Tunes. You can see some of the other ones they've done. They've done Jonah Hex, Yosemite Sam, Wonder Woman, Tasmanian Devil, Lobo, Roadrunner, which seems like the most natural pair up. You know, it seems obvious. But this one, Batman Elmer Fudd, was an exceptional read. Totally unexpected. It's
ridiculous, is what it
Wait a
is.
second.
It's written by the same. It's written by the same writer that writes the normal Batman. It's Tom King, who's a fantastic writer, and it's basically just like a detective noir story of Elmer Fudd. He's this gumshoe stalking around looking for his lover's killer. He shakes down Bugs Bunny, who gives him the crazy news that the guy that kills his lover was actually Batman.
And Bugs Bunny is not a bunny. You know, this is what actually threw me off about this entire book. When I all right, when I read the first few panels of the Batman Elmer Fudd book, it was not at all what I expected. I was expecting some kind of corny, a fold in the dimensional,
I was expecting something like
fabric
this.
kind of like opens up and all of a sudden you get, a cartoon character
Yeah.
that's thrown into Batman's world. It was not at all that. It was just these wonderful characterizations, human characterizations of these, famous cartoon characters.
It was like the
Cartoon
opposite of
animals.
being anthropomorphized, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was refreshing and actually it just grabbed me right off the bat. So, well done, DC. I didn't even give that book a second thought when it got solicited.
Was not prepared for how good this was.
No.
And it was exceptional.
Yep. So, I'm actually eager to read all the other books that are kind of in the same, the same vein, basically.
Because Elmer Fudd is apparently a badass and
Yeah.
has a fight with Batman and kicks his ass.
Yeah, he gets the better of him.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Superman couldn't take Batman down, and Elmer Fudd turns around and just totally annihilates him.
Yes. Yes. They go punch for punch.
So that just makes me
Ain't I a
wonder:
stinker?
has Bugs Bunny actually gone up against anybody yet?
Bugs Bunny.
No.
Not this book.
Bugs Bunny is this tall, scrawny dude with the biggest teeth, and
So
he's eating a carrot at a bar, Porky's bar. Porky Pig is a man who owns a bar.
Because I have to imagine, if Elmer Fudd can take down Batman, but not Bugs Bunny, like, what is Bugs Bunny going to be capable of?
Bugs Bunny is just a nervous, skinny dude that there's a lot going on.
You know there's going to be so much more.
Yeah.
I don't
Yes.
think there's actually any continuity
watch-
between the different stories. I think all of these are
Yeah.
going to be just like self-contained one-shots within, just like self-contained stories. So what happens in Batman Elmer Fudd does in no way bleed over to like Superman Bugs Bunny. So
I feel like Bugs Bunny.
They have all the classic. This is what I loved about this. They have all the classic Looney Tunes one-liners.
a nice.
Yeah.
Ain't I a stinker?
Yes.
And then
I love.
Elmer
I'm
Fudd
hunting.
with-
I'm hunting bats.
I'm hunting wabbits, and then he goes and hunts down Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I'm hunting Batman.
Yeah. It's really, I don't know, really entertaining, so definitely check these out. At least give it a flip through, You may want to take the risk of opening a few pages and reading it if you're a mean comic book store owner who might tell you to put it down. It's not a library. I'm not one of those. But it's definitely worth checking out, so... At least this, the Batman Elmer Fudd, if you just want to test it out, grab this one and give it a read, and then maybe you'll venture off into the other ones. I don't know if they're as effective. I haven't read them yet, but anyway. So, anything else in DC world? Catch anyone's eye?
Stuff's going
Aside
on.
from Red Tool?
Stuff's going on.
Still the only thing worth
Yeah,
reading.
stuff's
in my
going on.
opinion.
They're,
So, that's all we have for DC, but I think now we can move on to the indie world. Talked about Marvel and DC, and now we're going to start looking at some indie titles here. Some of the stuff that's interested us over the last month, and let's get right to it. The top of the pile.
All right, I'll start us off. So, one of the writers I've been following is this guy, Danny Cates, and he's definitely a writer on the rise right now. This is his new image series called Redneck. It's about southern rednecks who are also vampires, but these are vampires who have given up slaughtering human beings, and they've decided to live a peaceful life living off of cow's blood. Now, as you can imagine, the people of the town who know that they're vampires living out there aren't altogether too happy about it. So obviously things are kind of come to a head. And it's only 3 issues in right now. We're just starting to see the crossover between the towns and these vampires, but it's an excellent read. If you like this, he's also writing God Country, which just wrapped this month, which was phenomenal. And he also has a series out from Aftershock Comics called Baby Teeth. Same writer, Donny Cates. The guy's fantastic. I wholly recommend checking anything this guy writes.
Cool. The subject matter here seems right up my alley. I'm a big horror fan, so yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely check out Redneck.
ooh, vampires again.
Southern vampires, nonetheless. Right? So I mean, it smacks of
Come
True
on, you gotta
Blood.
say that with a southern drawl now.
It smacks of True Blood, but it's
Can't
completely
do
its
an
own thing. It's completely its own thing. It's fantastic. The other book I want to spotlight is Plastic. This is weird. This is a weird book. This is not going to be for everybody, but for a reason, I'm finding myself just really into this. It's basically about a serial killer. He's in love with a blow-up doll, and an evil crime syndicate kidnaps her and is trying to blackmail him to do really just work for him, and he's having none of it, so he goes right after him. And it's just completely sick and twisted, and it's wrong for so many reasons. But I
So not one for the kiddies is what we're saying.
no,
here.
no, it's definitely not one for the kids. Actually,
18 plus guys.
neither redneck, but it's just a really dark and twisted tale, and I'm really digging it.
Cool. Well, I have killed a Minotaur. I've always been a fan of Greek mythology. I always found it a very interesting subject in school. And, you know, I got to say that the story of Theseus and, you know, going to the Isle of Crete and the labyrinth, you know, was always kind of like that whole air of mystery. What's around the next corner? That kind of thing. And, of course, the Minotaur is such a horrifying beast, you know, from that genre. And this story just grabbed me right off the bat. It's really a lot of political intrigue mixed with, you know, basically mixed with all the mythological horror that you can imagine. I don't want to give away too much about it, but it does, you know, it's not a straightforward mythology story. It's not something that you feel like, all right, I've already read it because I've read all of Homer's works. You know, you're going to get something new. You're going to get something fresh, and hopefully you'll get something that is satisfying like it was for me. So with that, moving along to the next selection. Now, it's not so much of a creative title. Winnebago Graveyard. I'm not sure how that strikes you. I'm not sure if you get a certain sense of what the story is going to be. But I definitely had this like Hills Have Eyes type of feeling when I read, you know, when I saw the title, when I saw the cover, and you know what? It's almost exactly what I expected. And
You said graveyard. I thought you said bagel. I don't know. Why.
Bagel. How'd you get bagel? Out of graveyard?
When a bagel graveyard?
Bagel is what I heard, and I was sitting here in my mind like, what? But it makes more sense.
I really like the art of this book. I thought the art was fantastic.
The art is completely fitting, you know, to the story.
Yeah.
It's got that grittiness to it.
Very dark.
It's a little dark. It's a little bit like almost like out of focus in a way. You know, it's got that impression, which kind of gives you that little bit of an unnerving feeling as you're reading through the story.
Yeah.
And what you have here is, you know, just your unsuspecting family just you know, on their cross-country camping trip. And they run afoul of some pretty horrible things. And I don't want to split too many pages because I don't want to give it away. Again, not a book for the youngsters. This is definitely more for the adults.
You would suggest any of these books for people who are under the age of like 18?
Certainly not redneck and plastic.
Kill the Minotaur, you know, maybe like a mid-teen would be okay with that.
Yeah, it's just violent, right?
Well, that's
Yeah,
just who the indie comics, all those random comic companies aim for. They don't aim for kids anymore because Marvel and DC have that. They're not going to try to compete at all.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of comic companies outside of Marvel and DC really trying to do the superhero thing much anymore, except for like maybe Valiant a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
Dark Horse.
Even Dark Horse.
Dark
Like,
Horse going for like more like sci-fi
That's
horror.
yeah,
type
sci-fi
stuff.
horror stuff.
Yeah,
so-
Dark Horse is definitely, for indie, Dark Horse really beckons me a lot more than any other.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Alien franchise, just in general, always have been. I wish the Alien would win a little bit more often than they do, but you know, ultimately they're going to rule the entire universe anyways. Assimilate or die.
You just got a thumbs down, by the way, from the camera.
Oh, I saw him.
Just
Irrelevant.
ignore it.
Irrelevant. No, not even an issue. But yeah, so obviously I'm really big into that. There's a couple other series I've been jumping in and out of, Dark Horse related, but I haven't been able to dive into any of the newest stuff. Been putting a lot of my attention on some of the Marvel stuff that we've been discussing, so I haven't been able to get into anything new. I haven't even been able to keep up with my with just the Alien stuff, but I am looking forward to diving back into that, especially bring more content to these videos and bigger discussion into that realm.
Great. We'll hold you to that. Although not next month because you won't be with us. There's going to be another person sitting in this chair next month.
Who doesn't work here?
Who doesn't work here, but still might be known to you, depending on how closely you follow the blogs. I will say this, I did make a statement about there aren't many indies catering to young kids, but their IDW actually does do a lot of kid-related titles. So
Yeah.
IDW's got the Transformers, G.I. Joe, the Micronauts, like
ROM.
ROM, all that
The
stuff.
Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles, so there is stuff out there in the indie world for children.
Well, I would say
or
like, less like superhero sci-fi.
Yeah.
Boom does a lot of young adult stuff.
That's right. That's right.
They have like Lumberjanes, Giant Days, which is another young adult book, and they're fantastic reads. Woods by James Tinian, also fantastic stuff for young adults.
Yep.
But I would agree, image stuff generally is more for a mature crowd.
Absolutely.
And that's why all of our picks are image books. No surprise there.
So, thank you very much for watching our comic segment. We're going to be getting into a little bit of pop culture talk next, so stick with us.
Sure.
All right. So next, let's talk a little bit about movies. We talked ad nauseum about Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
In which we were universally thumbs up on last time around.
I hadn't seen it last time, but
Yeah.
this time.
So,
Yeah,
all right.
I
Well,
also-
since you hadn't
I
given
hadn't
your
either.
comments,
I hadn't
I'd like
either.
to hear like what you have
Did
to
you see
say
it as
about
well?
it.
I've seen it since
Yeah,
the last
okay.
video.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about just to get your perspectives on it.
I mean, I thought it was a great movie. Outside of a few plot points I thought didn't really pay off that well. Like, are we doing spoilers?
I think everyone who's
you haven't
wanted to
seen
see
it,
it
I haven't
has
seen
probably
it.
seen it by this point.
Yeah,
So
you
go
might as
for
well
it.
I thought the reveal of Ares was pretty obvious right from the beginning, right? They
So
introduced,
yeah,
they introduced that character early on, like he's a big name character, and then he just disappeared. You kind of got that feeling right away, like, all right, they're going to bring him back in some way, and if he's not involved right now, he's probably got the.
Did you expect who it was though?
yeah, that's where like I
didn't see that
expected
one
it definitely wasn't going to be General what's his name,
Yeah.
but I didn't expect it to be. I can't look at him. He was the antagonist from Dinotopia, from like years and years and years ago. So I always just see him as that character, no matter what character he plays. He's always that
Really,
guy
him?
from
Not like
Dinotopia.
Professor Lupin from the Harry
No.
Potter movies?
Not
It's
even
him?
watching Harry Potter. I was like, it's the guy from Dinotopia. But yeah, so that's all I could see. Even as Ares, like in his awesome, like that armor was epic.
Yeah, it was cool.
Even as that, all I'm thinking is like, oh, it's the guy from Dinotopia pretending to be a god. That's how cute. I didn't expect that at all.
I expected something out of him. I didn't know that he was going to be Ares. I thought that was like, that reveal didn't pay off the way. It didn't pay off as much as I was kind of hoping it would.
Yeah.
Because like the whole movie was like, all right, she's hunting Ares, but then it's like, oh yeah, Ares doesn't matter. That's not the point. And then it's like, all right, but here's Ares, you got to defeat him anyways. It just didn't feel like it really didn't make the movie better in any way.
So
Aside from having like a big superhero battle at the end. But that point aside, I thought all the secondary characters were fantastic.
Yep.
I thought Steve Trevor played an awesome foil to Wonder Woman. He was
Exactly.
definitely that mirror to her, like
He was
unbridled
definitely-
naivety of like, hey, I'm gonna save the world.
And he was definitely above average.
I got a good chuckle. The whole movie there.
that whole scene, I was dying.
It was
absolutely
so
dying.
awkward.
He like sets himself up, and she inadvertently just shuts him right down. Doesn't even realize what she had done. I thought, given the fact that this was supposed to be like one of the first real big like female protagonist superhero roles, I was a little bit worried about halfway through the movie realizing that Steve Trevor was a major role up to that point. Like he even took the forefront for most of the beginning of the movie. After you get off the mascara, she really steps out in front of her, and I'm starting to sit there and worrying, like, is this going to be another one of those movies where this awesome female protagonist is going to get outshadowed by another male role? But in actuality, what it ends up being is he is revealed as kind of that pivotal, that point where she realizes that the way that she's been looking at the world is completely wrong. So in her own character development, just his existence and the role that he plays in the movie is primal for that.
Yeah, not to argue the point, but I don't know if necessarily her viewpoint was wrong. It was just maybe it was a little too idealistic, and maybe Steve Trevor's was a little bit too realistic. And between the two, they kind of found like, all right, there is like, there has to be somewhere in between.
Yeah.
But I gotta imagine, like,
You gotta have that hope,
if he wasn't at the forefront, like always showing, this is the way I look at the world, she might not have ever gotten to that point where she could decide that the world was actually still worth saving.
Yeah, true. And I think that's why he makes a good foil. Didn't really
Yeah.
overstep his role.
They really play the whole movie together perfectly, and then in the end when he finds himself, you know, he sacrifices himself, and that's the turning point for her where she was like, you know, there are good people worth saving in the world, and we should do this.
Yeah.
And then all focuses on her, and you just see the finalization of that character development, and it really brings her into the Wonder Woman that I think is honestly going to save the crap out of the Justice League.
It's trying to save the crap out of DC movies.
Yeah, just in
Absolutely
general.
right.
One other thing before you,
Yeah.
I just want to touch on was I like how they did her origin story. You know, Wonder Woman in the comics has a very convoluted origin story,
Yeah.
and you know, for a time, both those stories, her being molded out of clay and brought to life, and her being, you know, the daughter of Zeus.
Yeah.
There was a time when they were both considered like
Technically.
her backstory, and I think they did a really good job of. I think this actually has been the best origin story that I've heard of Wonder Woman, where it kind of takes it to, and now she says, okay, that was the story she was told as a child,
Yeah.
and then slowly reveals, like, in actuality, this is what happened. And I think it really works in bringing the two,
Blended them.
yeah, bringing the two origin stories together. I thought that was fantastic.
Rob, any thoughts on the movie?
I mean, it'll save, like Tyler said, it'll save DC. Batman vs Superman. Everyone has their own
I think
things
we're
on
all
that.
disappointed about it.
Yeah,
I haven't even
But,
watched
um,
it yet, and I'm already disappointed.
but yeah, it's a breakout woman's role for a movie, and I thought it was fantastic.
It's got to really encourage Marvel because they're, of course, prepping their Captain Marvel movie,
Yeah.
and to have a female hero do so well in theirs commercially.
It's exciting to see what Marvel can do.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel actually now has to kind of raise their game.
Yeah, it sets the
With-
bar pretty high.
Captain
yeah.
Marvel is a
You know?
very, she's
So-
like, you don't see too much of a feminine side to Captain Marvel. She's very like, take charge, take command, and strong female role. Awesome, amazing. But what Wonder Woman does is she has both sides to her. She's not afraid to step out into no man's land, which to her means nothing. She just walks through and she's, you know, knocking bullets left and right, and she just takes care of business. That's amazing. But then you get those moments where she's dancing,
The
and she's
femininity
enjoying
is-
herself.
The entire
yeah,
movie
still
is
emphasized.
she's in the smack dab. She's in the middle of a era where women were seen, not heard.
It's a man's world.
It was a
Yeah.
man's world in World
That's
War
right,
II,
yeah.
World War I era,
Yep.
and they're all saying, as men, you can't do that, and she's like, yes, I can.
Yeah.
Watch
Like,
me.
honestly,
yeah.
they- she-
Watch me.
didn't
Why
even
can't I?
register on her radar that there'd be any reason why she shouldn't be able to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Exactly. Moving along, I'd like to actually talk about something that, which by the time you're watching this, a lot of you will have seen it. We are actually filming this at a point where we're just days away from the release, but Spider-Man Homecoming, the advance word on this movie, it's getting high praise.
Yeah.
High praise. So I am super excited about it. You know, after Tom Holland's little spin around the Peter Parker world in the confines of the Captain America Civil War movie, you know, I thought he nailed Peter Parker perfectly.
Yeah.
And so for him now to get this playground of, you know, probably a 2+ hour movie, you know, I'm really looking forward to this. And, you know, what do you guys think about it?
What's great is that it picks up right where Civil War ends, and I think he's still in high school, from what the trailers are telling us. And he's excited because he already thinks he's going to be a part of the Avengers, but then Tony Stark's like, I'll call you when I need you. So Tony Stark's kind of like putting his foot down, and keeping him. Yeah, he's keeping him at this certain point where all he wants to do is break out and be a superstar.
Yeah.
Right. Which is it kind of it goes back to that whole thing. We actually talked about it a little bit last month, just in the confines of the comics, about how Spider-Man is that character that kind of bridges that gap between the street level heroes and the Avengers level type of action.
Sky flying.
Right? And here we have, it sounds from the storyline that we've got Tony Stark is basically saying, you go handle the street thugs.
Yeah.
You know, we got this, and as you say, we'll call you when we need you. And so here, you know, here he is. He's in his playground. And I have no doubt that we're going to see something that is true to the, the core of who Spider-Man is and who Peter Parker is, exemplified in this movie. And so maybe we'll all get out to see it together at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
So I don't know. So anyway, we hope you'll be watching that movie as well.
If you haven't, there really isn't any point to be watching a video like this, especially to this point, because clearly you're not a superhero fan.
You are definitely the target
If you
audience.
haven't, by the time this video comes out, if you haven't seen that movie, you're not a superhero fan.
Then again, you didn't see Batman versus Superman, and you are the target audience for that one too. So we can't make assumptions here. Anyway, I hate dredging up.
I think
that
everybody
muck.
knew that movie was
All right.
going to be trash before it came out, especially if Superman had any tell whatsoever. So, I mean, I was ready to be disappointed in Wonder Woman. I was quite surprised after they pulled that out of their pocket. So,
Well, what else in movies recently? Have you guys? Has anyone caught the Transformers disaster? I mean, movie that just right? No,
I heard they turned Optimus Prime into a bad guy.
something like that.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Did you see
No, I didn't see it
I
actually.
saw the first Transformers, half of the second, and then decided no more. Because whatever Michael Bay does, I don't like.
It's amazing how they can take this franchise which features these giant robots and make just an absolutely boring movie out of it.
yeah, as a concept, it
impossible.
was so cool. Like, you actually got to see like all the
Yeah.
ways that transform and stuff. Like when it first released, the very first movie, it was like, this is gonna be so cool, and it was great.
It was fun. It was a fun movie.
The first
Fun
movie
movie
was
sounds good.
fantastic, and then after
What number
that,
is this? This is 5.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, they have planned up until 9.
No, 14.
The 14. Okay, my
Yeah.
bad.
It's too much.
Yeah,
It's too much.
14.
What are you gonna do with it?
although they have 9 more planned.
Don't worry, guys. Michael Bay is not involved anymore. He said this
Okay.
was his last one.
So
Maybe-
Mark's still in it?
No, Mark
Yes.
Wahlberg has also said
Did
that
that
he's
as well.
done with it as well. So,
But I do have to see it
Bring back Bill Buff.
because they're starting to be in a
They're both.
robot, like the whole world is starting to see robots, and cities are being destroyed, and they're not magically being rebuilt, and like some other franchises do. So they're starting to live in a world where they're coexisting together, and now this one, now they're trying to make humans extinct. Apparently, I gotta see it.
yeah, well, I mean, I'll end up watching
Yeah.
it because
Ultimately,
I am
Yes.
bound and determined to watch these movies
Until
so
they're good.
You don't have to. All right, I can just tell you how bad they are, and then you don't have to watch
I'm
them.
hoping as
So-
the franchise goes, they'll slowly transform into good movies. So,
But actually, if you are interested in our resident expert's opinion, we actually have a blog called The Dope Sheet. Don't worry, it's not a reference to some drug paraphernalia or anything like that. It's the Dope Sheet is actually an industry term.
His reviews are dope.
And his
Yo.
his yeah, totally dope. He's not like that. Anyway, but he
90s
actually
white
writes very good
suit.
reviews. So check out the Dope Sheet on our blog. He writes some very good reviews, and he's usually watching those movies before you even get a chance to see them. So, which is very cool. Anyway, moving on to television. What else is out there in television?
Game of
world?
Thrones is back this month.
Game of Thrones. All right.
So who's watching Game of Thrones? Raise your hands.
I just assume everybody died, and that was pretty
Yeah,
much
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're pretty much caught
This is
up.
the last season?
I'm still
More
on
people
season
died?
3.
Okay,
This is
Yeah.
the last season, right?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this is season 7. They're splitting the season up into 2 parts.
Yes.
It's going to be, I think, 13 episodes overall. They're going to do 7 episodes and 6 episodes. It'll be interesting to see how they finish up this series. It's such a huge, sprawling world that and they got so many moving parts right now. I'm really concerned about how they'll be able to just kind of wrap it all up within 13 some odd episodes, because they really just have so many threads still hanging that need to be resolved before it really satisfactorily end. But it's a great show, top-notch writing, boobs everywhere. It's phenomenal.
I hear that's not the only parts of the body that are.
I mean, for some, yeah, right. Their dicks there too
Yeah,
for
okay.
certain people. Yeah, that's what you enjoy that. Yeah, we don't discriminate.
I do not
They don't
confirm or deny
discriminate.
anything.
Game of Thrones does not discriminate.
They do not.
You got-
I'm much more into like the frozen zombie type.
I thought you were gonna say the frozen dogs.
The White Walkers.
I like dragons.
Yeah, the dragons. The dragons all growed up.
Yep.
Great show.
Eventually, I'll get to season 2, episode 1.
Actually, it's probably not a bad idea just to like binge it. You could, if you can hold off
At this
until
point,
it's
I
done. You might as well
probably
just,
could.
yeah.
Because
I've read all the books.
Now what's
So I
funny
hear
is
they're getting ahead of the books, right?
I'm listening to
They're
the
way
books,
ahead of the books.
books on tape, and
Yeah.
I actually like the way that the events are laid out chronologically in the books than they are on the show. The show, they kind of chop it up and
Yeah.
kind of mix it all up.
Yeah.
I feel like the books definitely.
so they
have it
do
more
like
chronological.
They do.
different parts from different characters' perspectives, something like that.
In the books, yeah. Each
Yeah.
chapter is done from like one character's perspective.
Yes. Yep. That's right. The books are phenomenal. You know, I've heard a lot of talk about the show not honoring really some of the probably more intricate parts
Yeah.
of George R.R. Martin's books. Now, I guess that's with his blessing, you know, and certainly if you're a fan of the books, you may want to have something that could surprise you in the show, you know, and not be. But I think it works in the reverse. People who are really super fans don't want to see departures from the written word. I, for one, you know, it's old news right now, but like, you know, the Red Wedding, you know, when Stark's when Robb Stark's mother gets offed, you know, in the books she comes back. You
Yeah.
know, that didn't happen in the show.
Yeah.
You know, like and I was like one of those people like you said the Starks. I'm like with the Starks all the way. You know, I'm with the Starks. They're the heroes of the story, and the heroes. George R. R. Martin just destroys the heroes in the story. Like
Slaughters them
it's
mercilessly.
insane. But at least in the books, he gives you the satisfaction of, you know, Catelyn Stark coming back and exacting some revenge. Like there's a sense that maybe justice is being delivered, and I think that's one of the plot lines they really missed in the TV show.
Yeah, they're not doing the Lady Stoneheart, the Captain Stark come back as zombie, but I
Yeah.
still think that they're gonna go through the revenge angle. But maybe instead of doing it through Lady Stoneheart, they'll do it through Arya's story. So like similar to how like Walking Dead
Yeah.
is using different characters to further plots that happen in comics. So
Yeah.
instead of like in the show, was it Michonne is Rick's love interest? I'm not really watching the show anymore.
I've lost Walking Dead
I
since
think-
season
So
2.
in the comic, you know, Andrea is the one that's like Rick's love interest, and you know she ends up surviving well past you know where the show's at right now.
Yeah.
But you know, instead in the show of having Andrea do it, they have Michonne take on it. So it's kind of similar to that. I think that's good. I mean, if you're somebody that read the books, you know, you don't want to watch a show that's you know beat for beat what you read. You want to have something new, some kind of surprise.
Right.
If you're watching Preacher, I think they're doing a very good job of that as well. Which actually, Preacher season 2 just kicked off, and season 2 has been very good. Season 1 I thought was okay, but not at all what I expected because it deviated so much from the source material that was almost unrecognizable. Season 2 they started to bring the two like they've definitely established themselves as their own Preacher universe, but now they're starting to bring in the classic Preacher story plots, and then it'll be interesting to see how those two kind of coincide.
Okay. Well, for me, some of the most exciting things that I've seen come out on TV, I really looked at Spike TV, Stephen King's The Mist. Now, here is a story that was adapted by Frank Darabont for a movie, a theatrical movie, starring Thomas Jane, which basically, I think, shocked the world. Anyone who saw this movie, who saw the ending of it, and who had read Stephen King's story,
Brilliant.
Stephen King's story left an ambiguous ending. You didn't really know what was going to happen. It was basically the main characters all venture off, the survivors venture off into the fog, or the mist, I should say, and you don't know where their story goes. He left it completely open-ended. Frank Darabont asked Stephen King, can I give you this, can I deliver this ending? This is the ending I want to deliver. And it was one of the most cruel yet probably brave endings in a Hollywood film that I've ever seen, because it just left you with your jaw hitting the floor.
Yeah.
And like you walked out of basically out of the theater in shock. Now, fast forward all this time, and now we have a TV series that's being developed by Spike, and we're taking like a pretty small novella that had a 2-hour movie, or actually less than a 2-hour movie, and now we're going to build like this entire world around it. We're going to bring in a lot of other characters. We're going to tell a lot more stories than what was actually told in Stephen King's original work.
I've had 3 people recommend it. So
I've seen the first episode.
yeah.
The first episode was solid. I have to reserve judgment. I've got the second one is on my DVR at home. I was down in North Carolina. I haven't had a chance to see it, but I'm really looking forward to getting into it. But it's this is a really good time to be a Stephen King fan. I mean, you've got Dark Tower coming out in theaters,
It's awesome.
which looks really cool. You've got It coming out in theaters in September.
It's gonna be crazy.
Which looks great, and great from if you're
Like
I mean, if you're already afraid of clowns, probably don't see it.
I've rewatched that trailer. I can't count how many times I've watched that trailer.
yeah.
I'm just hoping that if
Well,
this all pans out well, that we'll get a Stand movie. I mean, that's always been my dream.
That would
See
be-
a
Stand.
movie.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I mean, Stand is probably my favorite book from Stephen King
Did
of
they
all
do?
time.
I thought they did
They did a TV
sci-fi.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was decent.
Was it?
They did, yeah. It was a TV movie. It was a two-part TV movie.
Was it 3 hours long each, or something like that?
It was kind of like in the vein of the way they did it.
Yeah. But also, and it's kind of gone under the radar, but there's Netflix has a couple movies coming out. They're movies made for Netflix based on Stephen King's works, supposedly this year. Gerald's Game, and I the name's escaping me, but it's actually it's a short story, kind of like a murder mystery short story. Plus, on top of that, we have another TV series coming out on one of his more recent works, Mr. Mercedes, which was the first part of a 3-part detective novel series following this guy Bill Hodges, who was a retired police officer, and it is getting fantastic advance praise. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening in the Stephen King world.
Good time to be a
for-
Stephen King fan.
Big time.
And I'd like to see them make a kind of like a Stephen King universe, like a shared universe
Yeah,
where
yeah.
all those movies reside. Because there's always like in Stephen King's books, he always makes references to like well, not all of his books, but a lot of his books he makes references
To other.
to other events and like they tie them together. Like there's certain characters,
The SKU.
like the Man in Black, like Flag, he appears like in a bunch of different books. It'd be neat if they somehow tied it together.
So you mentioned that, and immediately I'm struck with the thought of something that's coming in 2018 in Stephen King's world, and that is a TV show called Castle Rock. Now, for a lot of people who have read a lot of the old novels, the classic Stephen King novels, Castle Rock was the made-up town in Maine where a lot of his stories took place. So you had like, I may be wrong on a couple of these, definitely Cujo. There was, I believe, Christine, and many, many others. Like there, lots of the short stories were also Castle Rock. Even movies or books that did not take place in Castle Rock would often refer to events that were happening in Castle Rock. Like, oh, down the road, this guy from Castle Rock came up, and that kind of stuff. So Castle Rock is pretty much a fixture in the Stephen King mythology, and there is a show being produced by, the Lost producer, produced the last couple Star Wars movies. Help me out here.
That one
You
guy?
know what I'm talking about, right?
Lost.
Cloverfield, that guy. Anyway, he is actually producing the show, and I can't believe I'm
It's gonna be
drawing a
awesome,
blank
is
here.
what he's saying.
Yeah, exactly. And all the stuff that he does, I really love. But anyway, Castle Rock is going to be a show that basically features a lot of the characters from these old classic stories. And I guess I don't really know how they're going to format it, but I believe that each season is going to be kind of revolving around a different set of characters, but that are all shared. Like, so it is Stephen King universe, so to speak. So it may end up referring back to a lot of the movies that we've seen.
It'd be cool.
Yeah.
To be like the Agent Shield of the Stephen King universe.
Yes, yes. So anyway, that is exciting stuff in TV. Is there anything that you guys have been following recently?
I don't watch TV.
You don't watch TV. You watch Netflix though.
I do watch a lot of Netflix. I'm getting caught up on. I just got through Luke Cage. I was very happy with Luke Cage.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
I thought it was amazing. I might have even liked it. I definitely like it as much as Daredevil.
It was better than Daredevil season 1, I thought.
Yeah, it was hands down. I think the overall development of his character, the way they introduce, first they go through with the first kind of like you have that primary antagonist, and then you have a secondary like threat, and then you come in with like the big boss at the very end. Just the way that they did the entire thing, like the story was never dry, always evolving. You're always learning more about the different characters. You were able to revolve around a single core character and keep that character interesting and growing throughout the entire time. Misty Knight is gorgeous, so there's that. Just everything about the show overall was just great. And then first episode of Iron Fist, and I can't get into it. Like I watched it and I was like, I'm gonna have to finish this because Defenders is coming, and I'm excited for that.
Are you going to make a liar of me here? Because I actually swore to you all last month that Iron Fist was a good show.
I only watched the first episode, and what I've heard is that the first episode or two is a little bit dry because they couldn't quite get the feel right, but then he breaks into his character and it gets good as you get more into it. And I understand I have to do that, but there are threats that Netflix is taking Futurama off. And so I've been getting my Futurama in before that happens. I regret having not watched Scrubs enough prior to them removing that, but I thought it was just like an empty threat, and then they went ahead and they took it off Netflix, and now I miss it every day, like a child misses their dead pet. And so I'm not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen with Futurama. So I'm getting my Futurama fix in right now, but I will be getting through the rest of Iron Fist
before Defenders
comes out. And I mean, I was excited through the opening sequence, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of development that can be there. So I will get it in, and I'm hoping I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. But I would have to say Luke Cage definitely, if for whatever reason you haven't seen it yet, watch it because it's awesome.
You like Netflix originals? F is for Family.
Is that good?
It is.
I haven't. I didn't like the style of animation so much when I watched the trailer for it, so I was like, maybe I won't. But then again,
which trailer did you watch?
The Netflix trailer.
The first one or the second one? Because the second season just got added.
Both of them.
Okay.
Both of them.
It's not even that you have to get into it. You just watch the pilot to give it a chance, and
Caught you?
it caught me right away with laughing, and it's hysterical.
All right, I'll give it a try.
Not meant for kids at all.
It's titled F is for Family.
It's hilarious. It'll have you laughing every step of the way.
All right. I should probably do that. Netflix is the only source of TV show-esque things that I can watch. Cause
Yeah.
I don't have cable at home, but I'm also never home. I'm always here. So we don't have cable here, and I probably wouldn't have time for it anyways. So Netflix.
I gotta say, just to revisit the movie topic a little bit. Our friend's back.
He's been flying around for the entire night.
Yes. It's all that Batman talk. He's aspiring to be a Batman.
Oh, I thought he was I thought that meant the Eagles were coming.
I had the opportunity while I was down in North Carolina in the mountains with no signal. I couldn't look at my phone at all. It was terrible. It was really terrible. I guess I'm addicted to my phone. My wife already knows this. I just was in denial for a long time. But I was able to sit down and actually watch 3 movies. We went to Redbox up here in the Boston area, 3 movies, and then headed down there. And I'd love to know, by the way, how they keep track of all these movies that end up getting returned to different locations, especially when it's
States away.
1,000 miles away.
Yeah.
But anyway, I got to see Hacksaw Ridge, the Lego Batman movie, and Hidden Figures. And let me tell you, 3 winners, all right? 3 total winners. I recommend all these movies to you guys out there.
Hacksaw Ridge. That was the one about the
Spider-Man was in World War II.
Yeah, but he refuses to actually kill anyone. So he's
But he refused to carry a gun because he's a medic.
So he's carrying all these people outside of the.
He calls himself a conscientious cooperator.
Okay.
In the movie, because they called him a conscientious objector, but he wasn't, because he was volunteering. And it's a true story. This is an absolutely true story, and it is one of the most amazing true stories, for, war-related, that I've ever seen. And I just can't speak highly enough about it, and the courage of this individual. And it's a piece of our history, you know. And so is Hidden Figures, for that matter. You know, like these are true stories, and I think they make the best movies sometimes. And unfortunately, Lego Batman is not a true story. But
I mean,
who says that?
It was a true story.
It probably
in
it
my
probably
basement
was
when I was playing with my Legos.
Exactly, when we were children.
It's really
playing with our
Everything
Legos.
Lego does, it's going to be great.
That's right. This story probably did happen in
Probably
many of our
because
basements and
the
playrooms.
Batman Lego personality is fantastic. Like you get that. I haven't seen it yet, but I do want to see it just because his personality and all the other Lego movies he pops up in is just great. Because he's so aware that he's Batman, but at the same time he's not the brooding Dark Knight that you see in every other Batman anything.
he's
Lego. He's Lego. It's fun.
Well, you know, I was one of those people that saw the Lego Batman trailer and just said, whatever, this doesn't look that good to me. I'm sorry. I was in no rush to see it. When I saw that my wife had pulled it out of the red box, I was kind of like, really? All right, fine. You know, I'm captive audience because it's on my phone. All right, and so I'm gonna watch the movie because I got nothing better to do at night. And I literally laughed through the whole movie. I mean, it was high quality entertainment. That scene where he goes to his beautiful mansion.
Oh, great! Now the movie's ruined for me.
Yeah, right. Bruce Wayne has a mansion.
What?
He's actually got his own island. That's a little bit different than the lore we know. But he's sitting there in this one scene. I will spoil this one scene for you. He's sitting there watching a romantic movie alone, and there's a scene where he just laughs and he turns and he's like, as if like he's going to share a laugh with somebody, and he realizes he's all alone. Aww. So life is just not complete, you know? So that was the whole theme of the movie. But
is this
it was
Batman Lego rom-com kind of thing?
It was kind of a little bit like that, but
Batman
it was
searches
so much
for
more.
love.
It was so much more. So, yep. Anyway, you definitely should see that. All 3 of those movies.
All right. Okay.
Yep. Those are my
I
recommendations.
forgot what the third movie was.
Hidden Figures.
Yeah. What was that?
Hidden Figures was a story about African American women who actually worked for NASA, and obviously during the time of the civil rights struggle, and being segregated and not being looked at very highly, but being so integral to their success, the success of their programs. One of the characters in particular is just like there's a scene where she's let go. Administration just lets her go and says, "We're sorry, we have to lay you off." And they send her shuffling off, and Kevin Costner is the one who delivers the news. Next thing you know, they're running a mission, and they realize that they need her. They need her for the success of the mission, and they're like, "Find her, find where she is," and they just. And so anyway, it's just one of those movies where it's a piece of our history, and in those types of movies, I'm always like eager to watch. To just learn more about where we came from. Nice. And where we're going in the future, and this is just it's definitely recommended. Check it out.
Cool.
Yep. Okay. You guys see anything on the Red Box lately that you might have missed in theaters?
So actually, I heard you recently got your hands on a copy of Life, or you were working on that. Life.
The movie with Eddie Murphy and...
No. No, it's Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal was doing all the stuff.
I did.
The Ryan Reynolds is only in it for like like 10 minutes maybe.
Oh, you just blew it for
Yeah,
everybody.
no, he's got better things to do, you know, working on Deadpool 2. And 3 and 4 and all the other Deadpools after that. Life was amazing. Like, it was just, it's one of those movies that you could, it's definitely very suspenseful. It was kind of given the horror genre kind of title, but it's not so much horror because you always see what the creature is. So it's not as frightening. There's a couple of moments where like you have a general idea of where it might be, and then it is there, so it never really jumps up on you.
Well, it is horror in the sense that it's horrifying.
Yes. But there's the science behind it is great, but there's just like watching how this thing grows and evolves, but then the ending just, you don't see it coming. It's so brilliantly done, so brilliantly done. Literally the moment the ending truly came to its fruition, I stood out of my seat and I was like, what just happened? Like, holy cow. Literally didn't see it coming. I pride myself on somebody who's usually able to pick out exactly how something's going to end, and this caught me completely off guard. Excellently done. If you haven't seen it, 100% worth seeing.
It's a solid movie. It's a solid movie. I enjoyed it. Not as much as the other 3 movies that I told you about, but it was good. It's worth your time.
Cool.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams, thank you very much. So J.J. Abrams is the producer of Castle Rock television series.
Okay, yeah.
That
I know,
would be-
that's totally random.
Back to that.
Dude, that's all I've been
Yeah.
thinking about.
You know,
Like,
I
literally,
was
like,
thinking, like,
the last 20
yeah.
minutes is all I've been doing.
I was like, okay, he's gonna move on, but then somebody's gonna remember who it is, and it's gonna drop right in, and of course, then you do.
I guess I just need notes. I'm gonna put a cheat sheet right on my lap next time, so you're gonna see me looking down at my. I'm not looking at like my fly being down or anything like
Gonna
that.
drive me
it's
insane.
just gonna be notes. being
You're
there.
sitting,
So-
do you even know what we've been talking about for the last 20 minutes? Checking in and out.
Passively listening.
Anyway, thanks for joining us, and be sure to tune in next month. We're just gonna get hopefully better and better. I hope.
Well, I won't
But
be
with
here.
you, we will.
I won't volunteer.
So, well, that's why we're gonna get better, because Tyler will be here. Just
You know
kidding.
what? No, that's it. This is over.
Well, the quality show's gotten better,
I guess
right?
I'm gonna have to start paying him now for that comment. Anyway, you guys have a great one. Talk to you later. Here we are in Bellingham, Massachusetts, outside of Regal Cinema. We just saw Spider-Man: Homecoming opening night. Promised we would see it. Sorry, Rob's not here to enjoy this, but anyway, we are here, the 3 of us. So what are the reactions, guys?
What's up, guys?
It's awesome.
Yeah, definitely a very strong movie for the franchise. I have to say that the thing that caught me the most just about the overarching theme of the movie is that it really draws into exactly how much of a teenager Peter Parker really is. You know, he's not
Nailed
just
Peter Parker.
Yeah, probably the best rendition of Peter Parker.
yeah,
hands
something
down.
that the other
Yep.
movies just couldn't do. They couldn't capture how much of a teenager he really is, and I think it comes from the fact that the actor playing him, what's his name?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland. He
That
just
would be without the S.
yes, Tom Holland. Yeah, he just encompassed everything that Spider-Man is, more than just the kind of goofy superhero that you get to see running around making jokes and fighting bad guys in like a fun acrobatic kind of way, but kind of the awkwardness that Peter Parker then has in his day-to-day life, I think is awesome.
I like that they did a lot of jokes. It was a funny movie. I mean, there was just a joke a minute. Really captured that fun sense of Spider-Man. I also liked how they did his powers. Like, he wasn't too OP'd, where I feel like some other Spider-Man movies, they made him either too strong or whatever. He kind of walked that real fine line of being like super powered but not overpowered.
Absolutely. And the thing I picked up was there were lots of little Easter eggs, lots of goodies for the Marvel Comics fans out there. I mean, there was just a ton of characters in this
So
movie.
many
and
references.
we don't want to
References.
blow it for you. I mean, by the time you're seeing this video, you probably have seen it in the theaters. But just in case, I don't want to be too spoilery. But yeah, there's a ton of characters and there's a ton of possibilities branching off from here. And so,
And a surprisingly good twist.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great twist.
Absolutely.
Did not see that at all.
Yeah.
Geez,
there is a great twist, and yeah, definitely
To
caught
that point.
everyone that we were actually with more people than what
Yeah,
we have here,
yeah.
and everybody was surprised by it. So very cool. So, hey, Sony Marvel partnership.
Stay
Yeah,
for
yeah stay for the end credits.
credit
right up
yeah,
to the
that's
end.
it.
It's
Stay for it.
absolutely, it's worth it. It's worth it, no matter what you might think. Like at the end, after what you see, might suggest you might not think it's worth. It's worth it. It's worth it.
It's absolutely worth it, and it's so important to this Marvel universe. So important. That's all for now, guys. Have fun. We'll see you next time.